My husband took his mistress to our beach house. I was there with her husband waiting. Please stay with me as I tell my story. And please, do not forget to support our channel by subscribing to our channel, liking our videos, and sharing your loved one. Your support means the world to us. Now to our story. Firecracker. I watched my husband walk into our beach house with his mistress, and I was already inside with her husband. He thought he was about to have the perfect weekend getaway. I made sure it was the last one he ever had with her. The sound of tires crunching against gravel echoed through the open window like a warning shot. I didn't flinch. I sat perfectly still on the edge of the leather couch, silent, composed, heart pounding only slightly in my chest. Across from me, James, her husband, nursed a glass of whiskey like it was his only anchor to reality. The room smelled faintly of ocean air and betrayal. The beach house was ours, mine and Daniel's. Our little sanctuary we spent 3 summers renovating and 2 pretending to love each other inside. I'd picked out every curtain, every plate, every damn candle in this place. And now it was hosting my husband's affair. From where I sat, I could see the driveway. I watched as Daniel stepped out of the driver's side, smirking, sunglasses on, trying so hard to look effortlessly cool. And then she stepped out after him. Her name was Claire. Tan, blonde, wearing my sun hat. I didn't even blink. James stood up and walked over to the side window, peering out. That's her, he muttered. Still lying through her teeth this morning. Said she was heading out for a yoga retreat. Daniel popped the trunk. Claire giggled as he pulled out a weekender bag, my bag. I watched her take his hand, swinging it like some teenage girl drunk on attention. I wanted to hate her, but the hate never stuck. It was all Daniel. All him. The front door knob jiggled. James and I both held our breath. Click. They stepped in, laughing, talking. Daniel's voice floated through the hallway. I still can't believe you convinced me to come here. This place is like heaven. I smiled. James put down his glass, straightened his shirt, and looked at me. Ready? I nodded. We stepped into the hallway just as they turned the corner into the living room. Daniel froze mid-laugh. Claire's hand dropped from his arm like she'd just touched fire. I tilted my head like I was confused. Daniel? What a surprise. I didn't know you were coming here this weekend. Claire's face turned chalk white. Daniel opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Behind me, James let out a slow clap, dripping with sarcasm. Bravo. Hell of an entrance. Really nailed the timing. I walked over and stood between them, facing Daniel. Don't worry, I said sweetly. We're not here to scream. We're not here to beg. I leaned in just enough so only he could hear me. We're here for the show. Fire the text that changed everything. It was a Wednesday night when I read the message that shattered my world. Daniel was in the shower, humming some off-key tune while steam fogged the bathroom mirror. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't that wife. But his phone buzzed twice on the nightstand, lighting up the dark bedroom with an unfamiliar name. See, curiosity is a funny thing. One minute you're lying in bed waiting for your husband to join you, and the next, you're holding his phone like it's a live grenade. The first message read, I can still taste you. Next time, let's not leave scratches where your wife can see. The second, same time Friday? I can't wait to see the beach house face blowing again. The world stopped. I stared at the screen, my pulse thundering in my ears. My hands trembled. My mouth went dry. I scrolled up. Hundreds of messages. Photos. Nicknames. Inside jokes. Plans. Plans to use our beach house like it was their own private love nest. Every message was a blade. Every I miss you another slice. But one thing was certain. This wasn't new. This wasn't a mistake. It was a full-blown affair. And Daniel was a professional liar. I put the phone back just as I heard the water shut off. When he stepped out wrapped in a towel, grinning like the man I once trusted, I smiled back. I tucked the betrayal behind my teeth. He kissed me on the forehead and climbed into bed, completely unaware that I now knew everything. He slept peacefully. I didn't. The next morning, I watched him pour coffee like nothing was wrong. He kissed me on the cheek and told me he'd be working late. I nodded, playing my part in his carefully curated illusion. But in my mind, a new story was already forming. One where I wasn't the blind, broken wife. One where he wasn't the manipulative husband who got away with it. One where Claire, whoever she was, didn't walk away unscathed either. I spent that day collecting myself, and the next one collecting evidence. I printed texts, screenshots, emails. I looked into our joint accounts. I called the beach house's security company and had them forward all camera footage to me. I even found Claire's last name through a synced contact entry. By Friday, I had a folder so full of receipts it could ruin a life. And that's when it clicked. I wasn't going to cry about this. I wasn't going to scream or plead or beg for answers. I was going to make him pay. Her husband and I started comparing notes. Finding her was easier than I expected. Once I had Claire's first name from the text messages, I went straight to social media. Daniel wasn't careful. He'd liked one of her bikini photos a few weeks earlier, the kind that screams, "Look at me," with just enough subtlety to seem accidental. But it wasn't the likes that gave her away. It was our beach house in the background. A few scrolls later, and I found her profile, Claire Whitman. Interior designer. Smug smile. Perfect tan. Newly blonde. Married. Yes, married. Her page was polished but not private. And there, tagged in a photo from their anniversary dinner 2 months ago, was James Whitman, her husband. He looked normal. A man in a crisp button-down, smiling like someone who trusted too easily. A man who clearly had no idea his wife had been spending her weekends wrapped around money. I hesitated before messaging him. What do you even say to the other betrayed spouse? I went with, "Hi, James. You don't know me, but I think we need to talk. It's about Claire and my husband, Daniel. I'm sorry to message you like this, but I have proof. If you want to see it, let me know." It took him 2 hours to reply. 2 agonizing hours. When he finally did, it was a simple, "Where and when?" We met at a coffee shop halfway between our homes. He was already seated when I arrived, dark circles under his eyes, jaw clenched tight. We barely said hello before I pulled out the manila folder from my bag. He flipped through screenshots, printed texts, photos. He didn't say a word until he reached one of Claire sitting on Daniel's lap, smiling like she'd just won the lottery. "That's her bracelet," he said flatly. "I gave it to her last Christmas." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. She told me she was in therapy every Friday afternoon. Guess she was. Just not the kind I thought. We sat in silence for a minute, absorbing it all. Two strangers thrown together by the same wreckage. He looked at me, eyes sharper now. "What do you want to do?" I met his stare. "I want them to feel what we felt. I want them caught. Embarrassed. Cornered. I want them to walk into a trap and know they did it to themselves." James exhaled, almost smiling. "Then let's make it happen." That moment shifted everything. We weren't victims anymore. We were co-conspirators. A team with one goal. And revenge, we agreed, would be best served in the place they least expected. Our beach house. James and I started planning that same night. We sat at my kitchen table, 2 cups of coffee growing cold, papers and calendars spread out in front of us. It was strange, working with a man I'd never met until days ago, now fully locked into a secret plan with me. But pain has a way of making strangers feel like allies. First, we confirmed the next weekend Daniel and Claire had planned together. That was easy. They'd already mentioned next Friday in the texts I found. James said Claire had just told him she'd be away at a design retreat again. Classic. I logged into our shared beach house calendar and marked it as free. Daniel and I always added notes, and I knew he'd check to make sure I wasn't going. I even added a fake event to my own schedule, brunch with a friend I hadn't spoken to in months. A perfect cover. Then we blocked the weekend off. I drove out there myself earlier that week, brought clean sheets, wiped down the countertops, made it look like no one had been there for a while. No signs of me. No signs of James. We left no detail unchecked. We packed separately. No signs of confrontation, no weapons, nothing that could be used against us. Just our phones, chargers, and the folder of evidence, which now included video clips from the beach house cameras I had synced to my cloud. Still, I couldn't shake the nerves. What if Daniel changed his mind? What if Claire suddenly canceled? What if they smelled something was off? James tried to calm me down. "If they don't show, we'll wait." But they will. They're too bold not to. Friday came fast. We drove out early and arrived just after sunrise. The house was silent except for the soft crash of waves outside. We didn't talk much. We just waited. Every sound outside made my heart jump. I kept thinking, what if this backfires? What if this changes nothing? But deep down, I knew I wasn't doing this just for revenge. I wasn't trying to get even. I needed Daniel to feel it. To sit in the same shock I sat in when I read that text. To realize everything he thought he had was slipping through his fingers, and he caused it. I needed him to hurt the way I had hurt. And if everything went as planned, he was about to learn exactly what betrayal tastes like. Cold, quiet, and unforgettable. They arrived right on time. It was just after 5 p.m. when Daniel's black SUV rolled up the driveway, tires crunching slowly over the gravel like it was a soundtrack to something awful. James and I were already inside, lights off, crouched low behind the wide living room windows. We'd been silent for the last 20 minutes, barely breathing, barely blinking. The only sound between us was the occasional creak of old floorboards beneath our weight and the rhythmic thud of our hearts in our ear. The car stopped. The driver's door opened first. Daniel stepped out, sunglasses on, grin stretched wide like he had nothing to hide. He was in vacation mode, casual, cocky, confident. That familiar way he walked made my stomach twist. It used to feel safe. Now it felt fake. Then the passenger door opened. Claire slid out wearing a flowy sundress and my sun hat, laughing at something he said. She looked so relaxed, so proud to be on his arm. They looked like a couple in a movie. Too perfect. too polished. They walked around to the back of the car, and Daniel opened the trunk. Claire leaned into him, her hand slipping easily into his. He kissed her on the cheek like it was nothing, like he hadn't been sleeping beside me every night. Part of me wanted to scream, to rush out, tear off that stupid hat, shove every photo and text message into their faces, and ask, "How could you?" But I didn't. I stayed hidden. I waited, because another part of me wanted them to keep walking. I wanted them to unlock the door, to carry their bags inside, to feel safe, welcomed, comfortable, right before everything came crashing down. I wanted the trap to snap shut, clean and brutal. Inside the house, James shifted beside me, his knuckles white around the armrest. He looked like he was holding back a storm, like every second was a war inside him. We watched as Daniel grabbed a bag, my weekend duffel, no less, and Claire followed him up the wooden steps to the front door. They were still laughing, still glowing. The key turned in the lock. My pulse raced. The door creaked open, and they stepped inside, still wrapped in each other's lies. They had no idea they were walking into the very place their secret was about to die. No idea that two broken hearts were waiting, ready to watch it all burn. He stepped through the door first, his voice still carrying the tail end of a joke. And if the traffic had been any worse, I swear we would have had to. He stopped. Mid-sentence. Mid-step. Daniel's eyes landed on me like a slap. I was standing in the middle of the living room, arms crossed, calm but burning. He blinked once. Twice. His smile twitched, then collapsed. Behind him, Claire's laughter died instantly. She bumped into his back, then leaned sideways to look around him. The second she saw me, she went stiff. Her face drained of color so fast it was almost impressive. No one spoke. It was quiet, so quiet you could hear the distant waves crashing outside. Daniel opened his mouth. "Wow, what are you doing here?" I tilted my head slightly, forcing a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "I could ask you the same." Claire looked from me to the furniture, recognition slowly sinking in. "This is your place?" "Our place," I corrected. "Or at least it used to be." And then James stepped into view. Claire's hand flew to her chest like she'd been shot. "James?" Her voice cracked. She took one step back, like seeing him physically hurt. James didn't speak. He didn't need to. The way he stared at her said everything. Daniel's jaw flexed. "Okay, look, this isn't what it looks like." "Oh, please," I snapped. "Don't insult what's left of my intelligence." I reached behind me and picked up the folder from the coffee table. The one full of texts, screenshots, receipts. Proof so thick even a skilled liar like him couldn't worm his way out. I held it up and let it drop to the floor. Papers spilled like snow, scattering across the wood. Daniel didn't bend down, didn't even glance at them. He just stood there, frozen in his own guilt. Claire looked like she wanted to disappear. Her lip trembled, but no words came out. "You were so proud of this little fantasy," I said quietly. "So sure you were getting away with it." Daniel's expression was unreadable now, like he couldn't decide if he should be angry, embarrassed, or afraid. James finally spoke, his voice sharp. "You two done playing house?" The silence after that was heavy, electric. Their lies weren't just exposed. They were rotting in the open air, crumbling by the second. I could have stopped there. Could have turned around and left, knowing they were ruined. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Daniel tried to talk. He stuttered at first, then managed a full sentence. "Look, this isn't what you think. I was going to tell you. I swear I raised my hand and he stopped mid-lie. "You were going to tell me?" I said softly. "When? After your beachside quickie? Before or after the next weekend getaway with her?" He looked around like he was searching for an escape. Claire stared at the floor, eyes wet, lips pressed together like she was trying to disappear. I didn't mean for it to happen this way," he muttered. "Of course not," I said, walking slowly toward the table. "You meant to keep it secret. You meant to keep both of us. That was the plan, right?" I opened my bag and pulled out the envelope I'd been holding onto all week. Thick, neatly sealed, with his full name typed across the front in bold. I placed it carefully on the table between us. Daniel frowned. "What's that?" "Open it." He hesitated, then picked it up and tore the seal. As he pulled out the stack of documents, his eyes scanned the first page. His face changed. It wasn't confusion anymore. It was panic. "These are divorce papers," I said, cutting him off. "Already filed. Already signed. You just need to add yours." He looked up at me like I'd slapped him. "You're serious?" "Dead serious." He flipped through the next few pages. "Wait, what is this?" "The business account." "Yes," I nodded. "I've already frozen the joint card. Transferred my portion to a separate account. You'll see it's fair. I don't want your money. I just don't want your lies." He looked completely thrown now, like the ground was falling out from under him. "And the house?" he asked. "Already spoken to the lawyer about that too. You can keep the townhouse. I don't need a place that stinks of betrayal." He opened his mouth again, reaching for some excuse, some desperate story. I didn't give him the chance. "By the way," I added, pulling out my phone. I thought you'd appreciate the full picture. I tapped the screen. A video started playing, grainy footage from the beach house camera. Daniel and Claire, kissing on the porch just 2 weeks ago. His voice clear as day. She'll never find out. She trusts me. Claire gasped. James didn't even flinch. Daniel's face went pale. I looked him dead in the eyes. You were right about one thing, I said. I did trust you. And then I stepped back, letting silence do the rest. James had been quiet the whole time. While I confronted Daniel, while the truth poured out, while the papers hit the table, he stood still, arms crossed, jaw tight, eyes locked on Claire like he was watching a stranger. Claire avoided his gaze. She fidgeted, touched her necklace, then finally whispered, James, I didn't mean to hurt you. He raised his hand slowly. Stop. His voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of quiet that comes right before a storm. I want to hear it from you, he said. How long has it been? She looked like a deer in headlights. I don't know exactly, I mean. Don't lie. Claire's lips trembled. A few months. He nodded like he already knew. 7 months. That's how long you've been sleeping with her husband. Don't worry. I counted the hotel receipts. You weren't exactly careful. Claire flinched. It just happened. I was lonely. You've been so distant lately, Anne. James let out a short laugh. I was distant? That's your excuse. He took a step closer. You were lonely, so you decided to have an affair with our friend's husband? In our bed. You told me you were going to therapy. I was. No, you were going to him. Claire's eyes filled with tears. Please, James. I love you. He looked at her like she was a stranger. You loved the lie. You loved the attention, the sneaking around, the thrill of it. You didn't love me. You loved getting away with it. Claire shook her head, stepping toward him. I made a mistake. We can fix this. We can go to real therapy. He held up his phone. Don't bother. I already emailed everything to your boss. The photos, the dates, the location log. You're done pretending to be the clean-cut designer wife. You're going to lose clients. Maybe even your job. But hey, at least you'll have each other, right? Her face crumbled. James, please. No, his voice cracked just once. You had a good man. A real life. A husband who tried. And you burned it all down for this? He motioned toward Daniel, who stood awkwardly in the corner like a ghost. Claire started crying, real tears now, but it was too late. James looked at me, then back at her. You two deserve each other. Lying, selfish, cowardly. You built this little fantasy on our backs, and now it's collapsing. He walked to the door, turned once, and added, I hope it was worth it. Then he was gone, and Claire was left in pieces. They had no idea we recorded everything. From the second Daniel's car pulled into the driveway, to the moment Claire broke down in tears, it was all caught on camera. Hidden in plain sight, actually. Our beach house had a built-in security system. Daniel and I installed it 2 summers ago after a break-in on the next block. For discrete cameras, porch, living room, hallway, and kitchen. Nothing fancy, nothing obvious, but sharp enough to catch every word, every glance, every lie. James and I didn't tell them at first. We let them squirm, let them say just enough to bury themselves. But once the dust settled and their excuses started crumbling, I walked over to the shelf and picked up the small tablet synced to the house's system. I tapped the screen. Footage played. Daniel, 2 weeks ago, arms around Claire on the porch, whispering, This place is better than a hotel. No one ever comes here but me. Then clips from the hallway. Sneaking kisses, whispered promises, planning the next retreat. Claire gasped. What is this? Oh, I said, this? This is what betrayal looks like on screen. James stepped beside me, arms crossed. And this, he added, pulling out a USB drive, is the part where you realize just how far this goes. Daniel's voice was low. You wouldn't. I looked him dead in the eye. It's already backed up to 3 different drives. One with my lawyer, one with James's, and one, well, just in case your job needs a reminder of the kind of business retreats you've been taking on company time. His face dropped. Claire looked at James, pleading. You can't show this to anyone. Please. My parents, my boss. James didn't flinch. You should have thought of that before you started lying for 7 months. Before you dragged both our names through the dirt while you played house in our home. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about consequences. Real ones. The kind that sting. The kind that follow you. Daniel worked in finance. A strict ethics clause. One leaked video of him admitting to misusing our shared assets, and he'd be out. Claire was a small-time designer, sure, but reputation mattered in her world, especially the kind that sells trust and taste to high-end clients. I didn't need to destroy them. I just needed to let the truth out. And the footage spoke louder than anything we ever could. Let them explain that to their families, to their friends, to each other. We didn't raise our voices. We just pressed play. The air felt different when I stepped outside. The ocean breeze hit my face like a reset button, cool, clean, real. Behind me, the house stood quiet. No more shouting, no more fake promises, No more lies crawling through the walls. Just silence and freedom. James had already driven off. He didn't look back, and I didn't blame him. Some endings don't need a goodbye. Daniel tried to follow me out, called my name once, then again. His voice cracked like he couldn't believe this was really happening. Like he was still hoping I'd turn around and forgive him. Like 7 months of cheating could be erased with 1 tear and a weak apology. I didn't turn around. I didn't say anything. Because I wasn't walking away in pain. I wasn't broken. I wasn't small. I was done. It's strange. The moment your heart stops begging for answers. When the ache fades and you realize the person you loved never really existed, not in the way you thought. It hurts at first. But then something better takes its place. Clarity, power, peace. Betrayal has a way of stripping you down to nothing. But that's the gift in it. When there's nothing left, you get to choose what comes next. You build new walls. Stronger ones. You open new doors. Brighter ones. And that's exactly what I plan to do. No more sharing my life with someone who treated it like a backup plan. No more wondering where he was or who he was texting. No more shrinking to fit his lies. I smiled as I reached my car. Not a bitter smile. A real one. The kind you wear when you know you've won. Not because you destroyed someone, but because you chose yourself instead. Daniel stood on the porch like a shadow, alone now. Claire was inside, crying, humiliated, exposed. They got exactly what they gave. Secrets, shame, and silence. And me? I got my power back. I slid into the driver's seat, started the engine, and let the sound drown out everything behind me. I didn't need closure. I didn't need revenge. I already had what mattered. A fresh start. A clean slate. And the sweet knowledge that I didn't lose anything that day. He did. He brought his mistress to our beach house. But he didn't leave with her. He left with nothing.